Hello, guys. Hello, guys. Hello, good evening. Good evening, and welcome to another live class for today. hmm Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to our live class for today. So I'm just going to wait for people to join the stream, okay, so that I can just go straight into our tutorial for tonight. Hello, guys, and good evening. Please, if you can hear me, please let me know. Okay, let me know in the comment section. Good evening. Let's see. Sigma, Toka Sigma first. Yeah, you're welcome. Hello, good evening. Toka, you're welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate those of you that dropped your hello hi. Apia Eunice, you're welcome also. Thank you so much, guys. So, guys, in today's tutorial, you were going to be learning how to cut a princess that blouse, bustier, padded. So that's what we're going to learn how to do tonight. If you can hear me, please let me know that my sound is clear, is okay, it is good. I would really want to know, please, so that we can start. So I'm just trying to pull out the picture of what we are going to be doing today. Where is this picture? Which folder did I put it? Okay, I think I found it. So this is what we are going to be learning how what to do today. Okay, so it's beautiful. So that's what we are going to learn how to do today. So let me know where you're watching me from. Okay, I would appreciate that. Thank you so much, Toka. Thank you so much. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start with the back pattern. Then after drafting the back pattern, then we're going to go to do the front pattern. Okay. Toka, Sigma, you're welcome. Hi, hello. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sigma. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So the first thing we're going to do now, so I just want to adjust my camera. Usma, you're welcome. You're watching from Lagos. Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for joining. So I'm just trying to set the camera so we can capture everything. Toka. Okay. So Toka Sigma, where are you watching from? Where are you watching from? So okay, so I think this table. Yes, I think everything. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start straight up. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a start line. So this start line is going to serve as our shoulder line. So for those of you that have been following me, you will know what I am trying to do right now. So that's the start line. And then from that start line, the next line we're going to mark the bust point. And for today's tutorial, we're going to use 10 inches as our bust point. So 10 inches, and then the under bust is going to be 13 inches, and then the waist we are making use of for today's tutorial is going to be 16.5, and then the full length of our blouse, because you can see it is a full length. And for the back I'm going to use 23, then the front I'm going to use 24 because of the dart. So from that point I'm going to mark all those lines. I'm going to connect them straight like this, and then I am going to label them. Okay, so like I said, if you're just joining, you're welcome. You are welcome, and you are very welcome. Okay, so I've connected all of my lines. So the next thing I am going to do now, I am going to mark. So these are the dimensions that I'm going to be using. Our shoulder is 14, and then our bust is 36, under bust is 30, the waist is 34, and then the hem is 42. So these are all of the dimension. Wyla, good evening. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do now, let's mark our shoulder measurement. So the shoulder measurement is divided into two. So 14 divided by 2, we have 7, and then we'll add half inch for allowance. So from that point, you're going to come down by 1 inch, which we are going to use as the shoulder slope. So that line, you're going to connect that line to your shoulder line that way. And then from that point, you're going to come down by 8 inches. So 8 inches, because my armhole I'm using 16 inches. So that is why I came down by 8 inches. And then I'm going to mark it this way by I'm going to connect it like this, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to divide the mid of this point of this 8 inches, which is 4. I'll mark it that way, and then I'm going to create a curve, okay? So this curve is going to be for my arm, it's going to be my armhole curve, okay? So when I create that armhole curve that way, the next thing I am going to do at this point, the next thing I'm going to do, I want to mark my dart lines. So for the dart lines, I'm going to use 8 inches. So that 8 inches, I'll divide it into two, sorry, which is 4 inches. So this is going to serve as the bust span. So I'm using it for both the back and the front, okay? So I'll mark that 8 inches. I'll just mark the 8 inches across all of my lines, and then I will connect it with a straight ruler this way, okay? So I'll connect it with a straight ruler. So the next, remember this midpoint. The next thing I'm going to do, so like I said, I'm doing the princess dart. The next thing I'm going to do, I want to connect this line to this point like this, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do, I'll use my pencil first. So from this point, I'm just going to create a curve like this, okay? So you can see, so this part, you can, if you notice, you see that this part is a little bit sharp, so I don't want that sharpness. So I'm just going to blend it like this. I'll blend this into this point. So that is why I use my pencil first. I'll blend that part. So with that, it's not going to have like a curve. If not, it's going to have one kind of curve, and it will looking as if it is a bust here. So I'm going to connect the line now. So I'm going to do it properly now. So I'll connect it to that point. So like I said, that part, I don't want it. So I'm going to blend that. Okay, can you see it is blended? So the next thing I'm going to do now, I want to take out my dart. So for the dart, so this is our bust point on that bust waist, okay? So for the dart, I want my dart to be 1 inch. This is our back pattern. So that 1 inch, I'm going to divide it into these two parts, and then I'll connect that 1 inch. I'm just going to connect it this way to that point, and then I'll blend it to the hip point, and then from this part also I'll connect it to this part, and then I'll blend that into the hip point. So that's for our dart. So the next thing I want to do now, I want to take out my full body measurement. So I'll come to this bust line. Okay, so my bust measurement is 36. I'll divide 36 into 4. I have 9 inches. And then I'm going to add my 1 inch dart, and then add 2 inches allowance. And then I'll come to the under bust line, which is 30. I'll divide 30 into 4. I have 7.5 plus 1 inch for my dart, and then 2 inches for my allowance. I'll mark it that way. I'll come to my waist measurement, the waist divide by 4. I'll mark that, and then I'll add my dart of 1 inch intake, and then add my 2 inches stitching allowance, okay? And then I'll come to the hem. I'll divide my hem into 4. I'm going to mark it, and then I'll add my 1 inch for my dart, and then I'll add 2 inches. If because I want it to open more, I'll add 3 inches for my dart, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do, all of these lines, I'm going to connect them like this. I'll connect this one to this point, and then this I'll connect to this point, and then this part I am going to blend them together that way. Okay, so you can see my blouse. So the next thing I want to do now, I want to add my neckline. So if you notice, the neckline, it actually has a yoke. You can see it has a yoke, okay? So this is what we are cutting. For those of you that are just joining, this is what we are learning how to cut today, okay? So the next thing I want to cut out the neckline, okay? So I'm going to come to this point for the back neckline. So I'm just trying to check. So definitely this neckline is going to be deep. So for my back neckline, I am going to use, I'm just trying to check it properly, okay? The back neckline is like a deep round neckline. and it's going to have straps. Okay, so it depends on how I want my back, but the back is not the back, back neckline is going to be deep. So from this part I'm going to mark 3.5 inches. So I'll use 3.5 inches, and then that 3.5 inches I'm going to come down to like 4 inches. Okay, so when I mark that 4 inches, so it could be deeper, it depends on what you want. It could be deeper, so I'll mark it like this. Okay, so the next thing I want to do now, because I want to add a yoke to it. So note that this part, when I cut, I'm going to extend this line a little bit. You understand, when I'm cutting, because if I cut it out like this, I will lose a little bit of inch from it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do from this part, I want to create that yoke. Okay, so I want to create that yoke. So this yoke, it looks like a Queen Anne, but it is not like a Queen Anne neckline. So what is remaining is what I'm going to use. So from this point, let me use my pencil, just watch what I'm doing. So from this point, I am just going to create, I'm going to create that yoke like this. So it's just going to enter like this. So can you see? So that it is not a Queen Anne, that it does not have that Queen Anne curve that much, but it's just going to come like this. So this is going to serve for my yoke. So the next thing I am going to do now, this line I'm going to extend it, because if I don't, I'm going to extend this line. It's going to come up to this point like this, so that the neckline can stay. So this neckline depends on what I want. I can make it round or I can make it straight like this. But if you see the front tone, you can see that it is like a V. So for this, I'm just going to make this one straight. So it depends on how long I want this to be. So I'll just make it straight that way. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to connect them. I'll just mark it. I'll use my, what do you call it, my, to just mark this straight like this, and then I would mark that yoke part like this. So I'll just connect it that way. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is to extend the down part. So this down part, I'm just going to use 2.5 inches for this. Okay, so that 2.5 inches, I'm going to connect it this way. So can you see where I'm placing my, and then I'll just curve this into this point like this. So that is for my back pattern. So the next thing now, I want to cut this out. Okay, so first of all, just watch. This one is a little bit trickish. It's a little bit trickish. Okay, so just watch how I am going to be cutting this. So I can actually, so that like literally, as in, what I am just trying to do, this is like a tube. Do you understand? It is like a tube. You understand? So that's just what I want you guys to understand. It is like a tube. Okay. So see the tube. So this part now, you're going to cut this out. So this line, you can extend it however you want to extend this. Okay. So you cut this like this. Okay, and then you will cut this. So this is going to serve as my yoke. Okay, so the next thing I want to do now, I want to cut this out. So for this part now, there's something I can do. I can decide to tighten this part a little bit, but since it is my back pattern, I'm just going to leave it that way, so it's not going to sag. So this is always a problem that beginners, they always ask when it comes to princess, that you have to be careful. The curve is going to be there, but if you are not careful, this curve at the end of the day, this curve is going to, if you don't sew it properly, it's going to pop out. It will now be looking as if it is the front. So let me see, Usman, is this yoke, the yoke is not necessary for the back. Do you understand? It is not necessary, but if you check the picture, you can see definitely the back has, it has this same shoulder kind of yoke. Do you understand? It has this, it definitely has this kind of shoulder. Can you see it, Usman? Because if it does, can you check, take a look at the shoulder area? Do you understand? You see the shoulder area? Definitely it has this also, because if it does not have this, this front shoulder will not have where it will lay on. Do you understand? So I hope you understand. If you don't understand, please let me know. I can still explain more. But definitely it has that part where it is leaning on. You get, it has that part where it is going to lean on. So when you join it together, this is going to stay like this, and then that is where the one that is coming from the front, you understand, the one that is coming from the front is going to lean on that shoulder area. You get it? So because if you don't if you take a look at it, if you take a look at the picture properly, you will see it. You see the way the shoulder is. So that was why they were able to fix the sleeve. If not, you will not be able to fix the sleeve. Pull down the pattern so we can see the neckline. Okay, okay, so sorry about that, Waila. So sorry. So let me see if I can bring the pieces back together. So this is how it was. So what I did, that's after measuring it from this part, you're just going to come up. It depends on where you want the back neckline, how high you want the back neckline to be. Do you understand? So it depends on how high you want the back neckline to be. You get? So this I came up. So let's see. I came up with like about 3 inches. Do you understand? Because I don't want that back neckline to be too deep. So that part is where you now mark it to cut out the yoke. You understand? So and then after marking the neckline, so you use 3.5 inches here, and then you curve it out. Do you understand? When you use 3.5 inches, you curve it out, and then from that part you cut the side. That's for the shoulder straps. So this one you can do it in two ways. Do you understand? You can decide to make this particular dress like Osman was asking. You can make it as a tube, and then you cut out straps. Do you understand? And then you cut out straps that you will use for this. As in, you cut out straps that you will use for this shoulder part. So it is optional, like Usman was asking. So I think I understand. I get you. I understand, because most times this kind of bustier, you can still make it without this. That you can just cut it out, that you can undraft it and then cut out the yoke, and then when you are done you are going to create this. You can just create it with a piece of fabric. Do you understand? And you still get it. So I hope you understand. I've done that live stream. I've done it so many times, even on my normal videos I've done it also. Okay, so please, if you have questions, ask your questions while we proceed to the front pattern. So this particular blouse, I am going to sew it. So there are some couple of live streams that I promised people that I'm going to sew. So don't think that I forgot. I did not forget. Do you understand? I did not forget. I am going to, this one is something I will sew. Okay, so I did not forget. So I'm going to keep the pattern. I'm going to sew it any of these days. But now I'm busy now. So let's just keep drafting them and keeping them. The day that will come to sew, we'll just be drawing from our live stream patterns and we'll be sewing them in our afternoon tutorial. Right now I'm very busy. Right, I'm busy, so I'm not going to be sewing those ones right now, but definitely this particular pattern I would sew it. I've told you people. So one of these days you will see it on our afternoon live stream. I'll come to show you guys how to sew it. All right, so let's continue. So the first thing we're going to do for our front pattern, we're going to mark a start line. So this line is going to be our start line, which is our shoulder line. Okay, so from that shoulder line, the next thing we're going to mark 10 inches for our bust point. Okay, so that's 10 inches, and then the under bust is going to be 13, and then my waist I'm using 16, sorry, 16.5, and then the full length I'm using 24. You remember for the back I used 23 because I'm going to take out 1 inch from the armhole of this my princess dart. So that is why I added it on the down part. If not, if I don't add it, it's going to get shortened. Okay, so I hope you understand. Okay, so let's see. Oh, Usman, okay, okay, Usman, yes, I'm following. I get the, I get to understand better when we get to the floor. Okay, let's see. So like I was trying to explain, okay, I will explain that. I will explain about that yoke more. That's good, okay. So the next thing, so let's connect all of these lines. And then I'll mark the down. So like I said, the down part, the length of this one is 24 because we'll take out 1 inch from the armhole. So that's our shoulder line. This is our bust point. This is our under bust, our waist, and then the full length is the down part. Okay, so that's it. I'm just trying to make sure that you guys. I don't know how this thing is even setting tonight. It's not setting how it should set. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you can see everything. Okay, all right. So the next thing we're going to do now is let's start drafting straight. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to our shoulder measurement is 14. Bust, this is shoulder, bust is 36, under bust is 30, waist is 34, and then the hem is 42. So these are all of the measurements that we're making use of. Okay. So the next thing we are going to do, I think it's better this way. So with this, we'll be able to capture almost every part of our table. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to mark our shoulder line. Thank you. You push, you please like this video. I've never said it since. Please like the video. Check this side. You see 3 dots. Just click on it and you see the like button. Please like the video. I would appreciate that. Okay. So the shoulder measurement is 14. So I'll divide 14 into 2. I have 7. I'll add ½ inch to it as my stitching allowance. Then from that point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and then that 1 inch, I'll connect that 1 inch to the shoulder line like that. Okay, so when I connect that, the next thing I want to measure my armhole. People remember the armhole stuff. I've explained this to you people how to get it. So for this, I'm using 8 inches. So that 8 inches is going to serve as my chest line also. So I'll connect that line. I'll just connect it straight that way like that. Okay, I'll connect it that way. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, I want to take the midpoint of this. So that midpoint, this is the midpoint, you can see. So I'm going to come in by like 1/4 inch. Okay, and then I will connect that line just to create my curve. Okay, and then I will curve it into the armhole like that. Good. So the next thing we want to do now, let's take out our bust pan, which is our nipple to nipple. So for the nipple to nipple, I'm going to use 4 inches. You know, I used 8 inches is the nipple to nipple, which is the bust pan. So you divide that into 2, you're going to have for 4 inches. So that for 4 inches, just mark the for 4 inches across all of the lines from the top to the down part. Okay. Mhm. Okay, so when we do that, you're going to connect that line like this. So you connect it that way. Okay, so the next thing you are going to do, so most times I'm just trying to check my pattern properly so you can see it is a beautiful princess dart off shoulder. Okay, so the next thing we want to do now, we want to mark our neckline. Okay, so for this neckline, I'm going to come to this part. You can see it's just like a slant V. So from this chest line, depends on how deep I want it to be. So I'm going to come down by 1 inch. So it depends on how deep. So I'll come down by 1 inch. Okay, so that 1 inch, I'm just going to connect that 1 inch like this. I'll connect it to this part like that. Okay, can you see? So I've connected that 1 inch. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to, from this point, I'm going to create my curve. Okay, so to create that curve, I'm going to, most times, if you know, I want to use my pencil first. Okay, so that's the midpoint. I already know my midpoint. I am going to, from that point like that, I'm going to create that curve. Okay, the best way for us to do this is our chest. This is our chest line. So from this point, I'm going to come down. No, let me not confuse you people. Let me not confuse you people. This is our bust point. Okay, So now from that point we are just going to create a curve like this. Let that curve, yes, so let it hit that point for me. Do you understand? So let it hit that point. So when I hit that point, so from that point now, I'm going to, can you see what I'm trying to do? From that point, I'm going to, this is my, so the next thing I want to take out my dart from, okay? So for my down part, because it is a padded blouse, I'm going to use 2 inches. Depends on how big. If the bust, since the bust is 36, I can use 2 inches. Or if the bust is like 40, you can use 2.5 inches or even 3 inches. So for this, I'm going to use 2 inches. Okay? So basically now what I want to do, I want my curve, let it come to those points like this. Can you see? Can you see? So I'm just trying to use my hand first. I'm going to use my pattern curve to curve this out nicely. Can you see? Can you see? So the next thing I want to do now, I'm going to create that curve now. So I'll use my pattern curve. I'll use my marker pen now. Let me check this thing again. It's looking. Uh-huh. That was what happened. It is too short. That line is too short. I did not hit it on the right spot. So that's the right part. Sorry guys. Because I was wondering that the thing was looking, it's looking so, but don't worry, it's the same thing, just it was looking so weird. I'm just trying to readjust the line. Hmm. So you see it now. So if you have questions, please drop your questions, okay? So this part, I need to blend this part. Can you see the way I'm placing my curve? I need to blend it. So it blends nicely. You see the bust here? It came out better now, okay? So the next thing I want to do now at this point, I want to extend my dart. So for my dart, I'm just going to extend it down. So if you have been following me, you know that most times the down part, I'll just reduce my dart by 1/2 inch. So I'll use 1/2 inch. That's for this down part. That's I use 1.5 inches. That's what I mean that I reduced it by half. I use 1.5 inches. And then from that point, I'm just going to curve it that way, okay? So after curving it that way, the next thing I am going to do now, we want to extend our what do you call it? Our line. So from this part, the next thing I want to do now, I want to take out 1 inch, okay? I want to take out 1 inch from my pattern. So that 1 inch, I can decide to put it on one side or I can decide to just like divide it, okay? Just take 1/2 inch up and then 1/2 inch down, okay? So that's after that I'm just going to curve, use this curve like this, because I use my pencil like this. Can you see what I am doing? I'm just trying to blend it to make sure it curves in. Okay, so this part is just to make sure that that part does not have those boards. And then the next thing I'm going to do now, from this part, I'm going to that's from to. So for this, I'm just going to extend it by 2 inches because I don't want it to truncate. Okay, so I'll extend it by 2 inches or 1.5. So I'll just mark 2 inches. It's better for it to be there that way. So I'll just mark that 2 inches there. And then when I mark that 2 inches, I am going to curve that 2 inches now, like this. Can you see? So I'll just curve that 2 inches that way. So this is my extension. Can you see? So I'll extend it. I hope you can see what I am doing. So I'll extend it and then just curve it like this. Okay. So now the next thing I'm going to do, now I'm going to use my pattern curve to blend all of this out. Okay, so the next thing now we're going to take out our full body measurement. So our bust measurement, we're using 36 divided by 4, which is 9. And then I'm going to add my 2 inches that and then add 2 inches allowance. I'll come to my under bust. I'm using 30, which is 7.5. I'll add my 2 inches for my dart and then add 2 inches stitching allowance. I'll come to my waist, which is 34. I'll divide that into 4. I'll add it and then add my 2 inches dart and then add my 2 inches stitching allowance. I'll come to the hem, which is 42. I'll divide that into 4. I'll mark it and then add my 1.5. You know, that's the dart I used was actually 1.5. And then for the down part, I'm using 3 inches, just like we did before. So the next thing I want to do now, I want to connect all of these lines together. So I'll join this line to this point, okay, and then I am going to join this line to this point like this, and then I'm going to create my curve. I'll just join them together that way. So the next thing I want to do now, so for that yoke, like I said, just like we did with our front and pattern. So for that the shoulder yoke, what I'm going to do now from this point, now I want to mark out our neckline. So for the front neckline, the back neckline, we use 3.5 inches. So I'm going to use 3.5 inches also like this. I'll just mark 3.5 inches this way. And then from this, on that 3.5 inches, I'm just going to mark 4 inches, even though it is not necessary because we're not making use of it. So I'll just mark this out like this, okay. So the next thing I want to do now, I'll use my chalk. That's from this point I'm going to create my what do you call it, for my strap. So this strap actually, like I said, you can cut it outside, you don't need to cut it inside the pattern.